You coin it as equal opportunity instead of equal outcomes.
Correct.
What do you mean by that?
Okay, let me put it this way. And this is something which I firmly believe and I hope Muda will continue to push for.
Okay.
There's a big difference between equal opportunities and equal outcomes. Equal opportunities mean that regardless of your race, religion, and socio-economic background, the opportunity given to you must be an opportunity which is equal. For an example, if you are someone from a poor background, in order for you to compete with someone who comes from a private international school, who doesn't need to do part-time work, can have access to private tuition, is that fair? It's not.
No, it's not fair.
Right? So obviously, you need to create an equal playing field. But that equal playing field must be based on the opportunities granted to you at the beginning. So whether you're poor, you're rich, you're Malay, you're Chinese, you're Indian, the opportunities at the beginning must be the same. Then you get pure merit. You cannot get merit without equal opportunities.
True.
Right? So to me, it's about ensuring that the baseline is fair. Because after that baseline, then it's up to you. It's up to your diligence, your hard work, your creativity, your innovation. Because then you can reach the outcome. What's the difference between equal opportunities and equal outcome? Equal outcome is very different. Even if you're lazy, even if you are incapable, just because you are born into a particular race and religion, in comparison to someone who may come from a racial, religious minority, working every day, working hard. The student, really working his or her ass off, to get 10 A's. But in the end, outcome must be the same. That's not fair. So to me, it is the opportunity which matters. And on this is where I'm slightly more sympathetic on having a more policy-centered approach to resolve it. For example, people say in Malaysia, why don't we just remove everything to do about race and religion? Okay, we can sing Kumbaya together thinking that Malaysia will be safe. No. The fact of the matter is today, because of our legacy, our past, you need to have a fusion of both. And on this, I recommend friends to read this professor, a Malaysian, but now in NUS, Lee Hock Aun, talking about how to deal with this matriculation, asasi, education reforms. For example, for the Indian community, right? The Indian community suffered a lot because of past legacy and tradition, when a lot of them were based in estates. And as you know, when you're based in estates, your access to infrastructure, clean water, electricity, good schooling, what more? When you don't own the land, your socio-economic leap will not be as much as those who live in urban centers.
Correct.
Where even if your family owns a small portion of land, even though you come from a poor family then, today you're immediately rich because the land worth so much more.
Yeah.
Education access is better, infrastructure, etc., networking, all of that, right? So are we just going to ignore that context? We shouldn't. We should not ignore that context. That context matters. Are we going to ignore the context today, for an example, for the Indian community? If I'm an Indian and my parents do not have access to tertiary education, I will be 3 times more impeded than a Malay or Chinese family whose parents do not have access to that same form of education.
Definitely. Yeah.
So the point I'm trying to make is, for you to assess equal opportunity, and I'm not going to run away from equal opportunity, but equal opportunity means that you need to factor in everything else.
That means you start from equal footing.
Correct. So similarly, for an example, I'm pretty sure we will not oppose, let's say for an example, there's an issue of gender discrimination where we need to assist. So to me, we need to look at all of this together. How do we approach it? We approach it through a proper policy framework. That's how we do it, right? So to me, of course, to say that, we can just sing Kumbaya and say race and religion do not matter, I think that's idealistic, but at times too idealistic when you don't get the change which Malaysia actually needs. To me, it's a fusion of both, without losing the basis that there must be equal opportunity at its base.
Well, one can argue then that Muda, even yourself, have been very, very silent on Indian issues. And one of the reforms that I've not heard any politician talk about, I cannot understand. It's beyond me why in Malaysia, every community's welfare is tasked to that respective community leaders. Okay? So like, for example, if you are a Malay, I've never seen you go to a Tamil school and fight. Okay.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Maybe you have. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe you're going to share an example.
But never mind.
No, I've not heard. If you have, please share, right? Like, for example, like I see, it is accepted that agencies like Mitra, for example, have failed.
Yeah.
Previous versions have failed, right? Maybe Saddiq was on a good path, but then change of government and all that. So you have Indian leaders who have not done much. And then you have, for example, a simple problem. In the Malaysian Indian Social Economic Blueprint that was launched by Saddiq, it said that 45% of B40 students have limited access to preschool.
Yeah.
So you just tweak that one part.
Absolutely.
And then they are on equal footing because now they can read. I met one boy the other day. He's in secondary school. He got 0 for his maths. And you know why he got 0? He can't read.
Yeah.
That's happening in today. And what I'm surprised is why don't leaders like y'all say, you know what? Enough. We gave you a chance. You messed it up. Now this is a Malaysian problem. Honestly, YB, I don't care about affirmative action. I don't care about NEP. Have all the luxury you want. But certain things comes with humanity.
Correct.
Compassion. A child's right to education is a God-given right.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. If an Indian child can't read, what does it matter that you're Malay? I can never understand the stupidity in this country.
Yeah.
Why don't you reform that?
Yeah. I mean, just when you mentioned about government being bad in communication, maybe Muda has to improve a lot more when it comes to communication. And
Okay,
that's a reflection of myself as well.
I'm going to be corrected.
Because I actually have been fighting on these issues so many times. And I agree with you. You don't need to be an Indian to fight on this issue.
Yeah.
I mean, I was investigated when I spoke about police brutality afflicting the Indian community.
Yes.
You mentioned about Tamil schools. I cannot agree more. And I can see that happening in my very own constituency, where Tamil schools today are slowly disappearing. You want to talk about funding of schools? I think Tamil schools are worst funded relative to SJKCs and also Sekolah Kebangsaan. So that's a second issue. But at the same time, I think that takes a lot more fundamental changes because it's not that simple of just throwing money and thinking that will be...
No, I understand that. And the point I'm trying to make here is that it's not that it is impossible to raise the funds needed on a private level, right? You see Chinese people doing it, Chinese associations doing it a lot and they do it successfully. But that's because the Chinese community are very together. Yeah. They support and they have very good values in terms of education and all that. When it comes to Tamil schools, the problem is when you have a group of leaders who have failed, I'm waiting for leaders like you to say, listen, this is a Malaysian issue. I'm going down. I don't care about the money. I'm coming down. Let's solve this as a Malaysia.
Yeah.
Because to all Malays or Chinese who watch this, you don't become lesser of a Malay or Chinese if you support a child to study.
Absolutely.
Okay. But why not do reforms like that? Yeah. Because that reform is so powerful because it's not in pen and paper, it's in the minds of voters. Now we look at you as someone, a leader who fights for us all. Yeah. Like I've even brought this up to PSM. I told PSM, I said, why don't you all fight for the Indian bloc? Oh, no, we are multicultural. That is such a lame ass excuse. Sorry for my English, but that's so lame. Yeah.
Yeah, so, you have to acknowledge that specific communities have specific problems which require assistance.
But the who solves it is colorblind. I don't care if Lim Kit Siang or you YB go and solve it. So is that in your plan?
Yeah. Now that you mention it, I'll definitely take a lot more attention. No, because to be
I went on a tirade.
No. To be fair with you, I actually have not been looking at this issue a lot. I look a lot more when it comes to matriculation and foundation. On that, I've mentioned it like so many times. And Muda has its policy plan publicly. But on this, I didn't.
Yeah.
So it's a fair issue which I need to look at.
Now,